what he did was so unique and so original. His vision was one of the great giants of 100 years of cinema. He just took so many chances and created such a new, crossed over such new territory. No, he was more and more enclosed in his own mind and the pictures that he was making, the little pictures he would take out of his mind and put on the screen. I saw him shoot once, and he was more interesting while he was doing the shot, you know. Show was behind the camera a lot of the time, you know. Well, it's just a tragedy.
So, given the time is short, I'm going to have to ask questions rather bluntly.
Mm-hmm.
How would you rate Federico Fellini as a filmmaker?
Well, obviously, Fellini for me is obviously one of the great masters, and you have what he did was so unique and so original, only onto himself. No one else could. We could try to emulate the style. We could try to copy it. We could try to imitate him, but his approach and his vision was one of the great giants of 100 years of cinema. There's no doubt.
Influences on yourself?
Certainly, yeah, certainly.
What, stylistically?
Stylistically, yes, to a certain extent. Stylistically, I mean, his I Vitelloni was a great influence on my pictures, and was one of the pictures that gave me the inspiration, not inspiration, but the courage to make a film about my own friends and myself, Mean Streets, with humor also, because he had a great sense of humor. The dramatic situation was also very funny. And then 8½ was another great inspiration to me, the camera moves and the editing of the film. And also I saw 8½a few weeks before I started shooting my very first short film at NYU, at New York University, and so it affected a lot of what I did. But that and the whole sense of the autobiographical film became very interesting with 8½. He just took so many chances and created such a new, crossed over such new territory that nobody had done for many years. And also, it's very funny because as a young film student, we wanted to be that director. We wanted to be Guido and live like him and have the same problems, and you know, that sort of. They were very silly bunch of kids, but you know, we were the lifestyle of Guido. You know, was something we all wanted to emulate, but that turns out differently in life.
Do you regard him particularly as an Italian filmmaker?
Not necessarily. No, as a filmmaker.
Right.
Interestingly enough, he was. At the time in the 60s, we had hoped that he would come to America and make a film, and he always said, what can I do in America? He says, the language, he doesn't really know the language, and New York is very gray. He said, it's not colorful. No, he was more and more enclosed in his own mind, and the pictures that he was making, the little pictures he would take out of his mind and put on the screen were totally from his subconscious. Nobody else's. Nobody could have done the same thing.
That's kind
and therefore, he didn't need to come to America. He didn't need to make, he just worked everywhere, and every picture he did was basically Cinecittà. He created his own world in Cinecittà all the time.
It's kind of frightening for producers, that kind of vision.
Yes, it is, because you never know what you're going to get. But, also at the same time, he was a great showman. And knowing him, I know him since 1970, 23 years. And his behavior was not the kind of director who would give the producers cause for alarm in that he didn't know what he was doing or he seemed worried or troubled. It was his behavior. It was like running a three-ring circus. He was the show. I saw him shoot once, and he was more interesting while he was doing the shot, Show was behind the camera a lot of the time, Or watch the documentary that he didn't like, I think was Ciao Federico, which has got some very interesting things in it,
Just, you were going to work with him.
Yes. Yeah, it was
Why did you want to work with him in the first place?
It's not why I wanted to work with him. It's that we were able to, Rafael Donato is my associate in Italy a few years ago, we were able to find that we could be of some help to him. And that is get some money. And we got it. Leo Pescarola, his lawyer, was producing this film, or wanted to produce his next film, and they wanted us to get involved, and we got the money from Universal Pictures. And we were ready to shoot. And then he had the bypass, and then after the bypass, he was coming along fine, and so we were ready to shoot around March, I think, you know. But that's more like, you know, I said, you want my name, you use my name, if you think it's important. If you think it's important. I said, in America, if you think it's important, put my name on the picture. You know, so-and-so presents along with Martin Scorsese, etc. In Italy, if you don't want my name on it, don't use it. Because it's a presumption. That's a great presumption. Very often, it's almost an embarrassment that you would have to put a name of a younger filmmaker or somebody to present an old master to their own people. It's crazy, you know? But it's really, it's too bad. It's just, you know.
Was he always that so self-deprecating? Modest?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, modest, but great ego at the same time. It's very funny, you know. And the element, so lovable because like an incredible, well, a brilliant artist, but also a great charlatan, you know, in a sense. Like Cagliostro, the magician from the 18th century, you know, the good and the bad there, and as a human being, you know what I'm saying? Somebody who's, as I say, the film was very often behind the camera, you know.
Was there a sadness at the end? I mean, say like Hitchcock, in terms of he's a man getting on in years who I assume wants to continue to make pictures.
Yeah, it certainly was. Nobody didn't give him any money. And I don't know. I mean, it seemed to me that, well, Penta gave him the money for the last film, Voice of the Moon, which I think is one of his better pictures. And but Raphael and I had trouble even getting that film released in America. Only Harvey Weinstein, Miramax, had any real interest in the picture. And there were exhibitors wouldn't show it. We tried to get a very important exhibitor to look at the film and say that she would show it in her theater in New York, and left me a message with my secretary saying that she didn't like it.
That's 1989, isn't it?
No, that's 1992. That was last year.
But the picture was made in...
The picture was made in 1989. And we did re-release this year Intervista in America. Julian Schlossberg did. Yeah, he was the other one I think was interested in Voice of the Moon too. But really, he released Intervista, which is a film that I think was made '87, I think, which is really more of a television film. And I must say though, the American press really rallied and they loved the picture, and they welcomed him back. And they started, you know, we had hoped they were going to ask questions like, "Are you going to now? What about his last feature? Is it going to be shown?" But that didn't come up too often. But I must say, you couldn't have asked for better reviews and more of a resurgence of his standing in America. Then after that, 8.5 was released again, and now we're releasing in America La Strada. It started this week.
What was the film he was going to make with you about?
Ah, yes, he was going to make a series of films about the filmmaking process, starting with The Actor. Someday, if we can, we'd love to let people know. It's so funny. It is so funny. The treatments alone are hilarious. God knows what was going to happen. I mean, we were so excited. We were going to go there, actually go on the set maybe, you know, hang around for like a day, you know. It was going to be great. And then another one was on The Producer, which would be a good show also, on his version of The Producer. The descriptions and the treatments alone. For example, The Producer, and one of the most important aspects of The Producer was going to find locations. And after a while, you make enough movies, you realize the location you choose is the one next to the good restaurant. For good eating at lunchtime is most important. So that was the kind of thing that was going. I think there was another one on the cameraman too. I'm not sure. Every aspect of filmmaking, and he was just going to explore it his own way. By the way, with The Actor, he was talking in his treatment, going back to the actors that influenced him, and that is very much. Do you remember, for example, like the old Italian actor Inivi Telloni, who performs on stage, is reduced to doing vaudeville at the end in a way, or burlesque? People of that time, rather than actors of that you normally think like the people that he was with, like Marcello Mastroianni, he's going back to his childhood actors, which would be Italian actors, which would be a great, I thought it would have been an incredible learning experience for other audiences, other cultures, you know, to see. And, you know, well, it's just a tragedy. Yeah.
Okay, I better let you go, but can I ask just one final question? Do you think, I mean, the clips I've got are things like 8.5 and La Dolce Vita. Do you think those are the key films, or the later ones?
8.5 is a film that, like Citizen Kane, is one of the great landmarks in movies. It just is. It always will be. So that's certainly key. I would hope that you show something from I Vitelloni or Nights of Cabiria instead of La Dolce Vita. Because La Dolce Vita was, for me, a film that was the transition. A long 3-hour piece that it was sort of a road going somewhere, and nobody knew where the hell he was going to come off the other end. And it became 8.5, you see. You know, that was a way to get from the picture. What was before La Dolce Vita? Cabiria? Il Bidone, The Swindler, and pictures like Cabiria, Nights of Cabiria, which is a wonderful film too, was right before that. And the bridge between narrative, straight narrative, and poetic realism to the incredible world that he created of 8.5, and then from then on his own fantasy world, was La Dolce Vita. And that's a road to look at. I consider that sort of a road in a way, more than. But I would hope that you would show something like from I Vitelloni, or even certain scenes in like Nights of Cabiria. The ending of Nights of Cabiria, for example, is quite extraordinary.
But all those 60s films are better than you saying Fellini's Rome or Fellini's Casanova or Satirica.
Casanova's amazing. I wish we can show that again. Casanova has some remarkable things in it. Satyricon is one of my very, very favorites, and we hope to talk to United Artists who own it and re-release that in a new print. It would be a major revelation for younger filmmakers to see, you know.
Martin, I better let you go.
Thank you.